Boxing legend Evander Holyfield is backing Andy Ruiz to beat Anthony Joshua in the rematch. Now, some people are going to say, well, it's just because Andy Ruiz is American and Holyfield's American, so it's just some patriotism. He's just backing his countrymen. Well, there is actually a little bit of ambiguity, at least for me, about Andy Ruiz's nationality, because when he was with Top Rank, they always billed him as being from Mexicali, Mexico. They weren't billing him as being from California, as they are now. And I can't remember if they said he was born in Mexicali when he was on the Top Rank shows. I can't remember, but they were certainly billing him as being Mexican, not being American when he was on those Top Rank shows. You go back and watch those shows, you see for yourself. But now they're billing him as being Mexican-American and coming from California and whatnot. From what I've read on his Wikipedia page, he was born in California. And look, Wikipedia is not always accurate. I don't know whether this is true or not. I'm just telling you what I've read. It says he was born in California, but he moved to Mexico with his parents. His parents are obviously both Mexican. Moved to Mexico with his parents at a pretty young age because he took up boxing in Mexico and he was living in Mexicali. And that's where he had all his amateur fights. He boxed for the Mexican national team, etc., etc. So, yeah, there is a little bit, for me, of ambiguity about his nationality and stuff like that. But I'm going to, at the moment, take it at face value and say he is an American citizen, all right, Mexican-American. Be that as it may, some people are going to say Holyfield's just showing bias here. Holyfield actually sparred Andy Ruiz many years ago when Ruiz was, I think, 19 years old or something. And Holyfield said he was very impressed with Ruiz even from then. Yeah, he was very, very impressed with the guy. So I'm going to quote Evander Holyfield directly here. He says, "The heavyweight division is growing. With the fight we saw between Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, it shows that when someone believes in himself, he can achieve what he sets out to do. Everything will depend on Joshua. If he does not get used to the pressure, the same thing will be repeated in a second fight. Ruiz has to make the same kind of fight, stay on him all the time. Joshua was not in the best condition on the first occasion, and he must prepare for that kind of pressure. Trust comes from the mental. We all know that Joshua is a good fighter who is strong, but that's what happens when you apply pressure to a person. Pressure devours those who are not prepared to face it." And he goes on to say, "Yes, I expect the same outcome because Ruiz would fight in the same way. He has no fear. He takes risks. And those who take risks have more opportunities to win and become world champions." So that's the opinion of Evander Holyfield, and I think a very measured and reasonable opinion from the real deal. One thing I will say is Andy Ruiz, after the third round, was pretty cautious against Anthony Joshua because, as I pointed out previously, that was the first time Andy Ruiz had ever been down in that third. And he wasn't used to going down. You know, he said he'd never been down before in sparring or in any of his pro fights. So after the third round, when he saw AJ starting to get his wits back about him, Ruiz was pretty cautious. If you go look at the fourth round, it's like Ruiz is like kind of tentative and neither one of them is really doing much. And to me, that's testament of the fact that Ruiz was concerned about Anthony Joshua's power. And he wanted to, you know, be very careful about when he decided to punch. In fact, he looked more careful after the knockdown, like in the fourth round and stuff like that, fifth round. He looked more careful then than he did prior, like he was in the first two rounds. So will he be careful in the rematch about Anthony Joshua's power, or will he be gung-ho? Because he's said that he's going to apply more pressure. I think he needs to, particularly if the fight's in the United Kingdom. If the fight's in the United States, I don't think he'll need to apply as much pressure. Yeah, I think he will be able to box relatively conservatively because AJ is going to be cautious. AJ is going to be worried about getting clipped. So I think in the United States, it really favors Andy Ruiz. And yeah, he may not have to throw that many more punches, I think. You know, even though it's, you know, still going to be a DAZN show. It's still going to be an AJ, a situation which is weighted in favor of AJ, but I would imagine that it will be less so than the first fight, because now the boxing establishment in the United States understand that they've got a potential ticket seller on their hands in Andy Ruiz, because Mexican fans really back their fighters. They really do. And if you look at the fanfare surrounding Andy Ruiz's win, he's got way, way more publicity after beating AJ than Deontay Wilder got beating Stavern or anybody that Wilder's beat. Not one of Wilder's victories in his whole career has gained him as much notoriety overnight as Andy Ruiz's victory over AJ. And yes, that's partly because of the fact that AJ is a big name and what have you, and bigger than any of the names that Deontay Wilder's beat. But the fact that Ruiz is Mexican also has a hell of a lot to do with it. I mean, Ruiz went to go meet the Mexican president, right? After beating Anthony Joshua. I know Deontay Wilder's met, the American president, but that wasn't specifically because of a fight. That was because of that whole pardoning Jack Johnson thing. Yeah. Whereas with Andy Ruiz, it's specifically because he beat Anthony Joshua and became the first ever Mexican world heavyweight champion. Obviously, there have been many Black American world heavyweight champions, so there's nothing real historic about what Deontay Wilder did. But nonetheless, it should still be a big deal, being the world heavyweight champion from the United States. But as I say, the Mexican fans really support their own, and the boxing establishment in the United States must know this. So I would imagine that the situation won't be as biased in favor of AJ as it would have been first time around. And I'm talking about the judges, the ref, stuff like that. Even the crowd. I'm expecting a much more split crowd. It won't be as predominantly pro AJ as it was for the first fight. I think there'll be a lot of Mexicans in there cheering on Andy Ruiz because he's an everyman at the end of the day. Yeah, he's the kind of guy that the average Mexican fan can relate to. They look at him and he looks like my cousin or my brother or my uncle or whatever, And he's this real affable character that, a lot of people can really connect with. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, this rematch. And opinions are really split on who's going to win, even in the UK. I mean, people overseas might assume that most Brits are backing AJ to win the rematch. Not at all. Britain is very, very divided, at least among the boxing community. I don't know what the general public feel like, but among the boxing community, and by that I mean the hardcore fans, the trainers, the managers, the fighters, the pundits, the boxing journalists, opinions are very split. It might even be 50-50, I don't know, in terms of who's going to win the rematch. But a lot of people are picking Andy Ruiz. A lot of British people, British fighters and, what have you, are picking Ruiz to win second time around. I think even Daniel Dubois came out recently and said he thinks Andy Ruiz has got AJ's number. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree with Holyfield? Or do you agree with, let's say, Johnny Nelson? Or who else was there now? I think Ricky Hatton as well thinks that AJ is going to win the rematch. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. It's happening out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.